Hi, I'm Tameka Kee, reporting live from the Cannes Lion International Festival of Creativity for BTV and the New York Stock Exchange. And we are delighted to have Alison Moore, CEO of Chief, with us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hey, Alison. So we're midweek at Cannes,
Yes.
and it's been a packed few days, I'm sure. Panels, conversations,
Endless.
rooms full of some of the most influential leaders in marketing and culture. What have some of the biggest themes been for you?
I mean, if I didn't say AI, there would be something wrong with me, right? So AI, commerce integration, creativity, new ways to establish creative voice, creative expression with the advent of technology. So there's so many things that I could put in the packet of technology advancement, creativity. But the other thing that's like this string that you can feel through everything is like the concern for the humanity of it all and the human impact. And in the work environment, in the creator's environment, how do we protect those things that are uniquely human? And how do we kind of amplify and utilize and find the coercion between what is like the technology advancements that we know are going to fuel and grow our business scale, all those things, the sort of movement of creativity, as well as find the place for humans at the table and see how we can do that together. And all of that, to me, is leadership, which is why for us, this has been a very interesting conference to listen and hear what's bubbling. And I'm very pleased to see conversations of folks saying, finally, like, hold up. Like, can we just figure out how this is going to come into the organization? Can we wait a minute? Can we think about the team? Can we think about agentic and human structures differently, and not just go only blindly to speed.
Not just move fast and break things.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we have to move at record's pace. It's mind-blowing, but can we have some contemplation and consideration first? And I think the two can be had at the same time.
So it's interesting that you talk about the shifts and bringing people into the workforce. For the first time in history, you kind of have four generations working together side by side in the workforce, along with AI now.
Yeah.
I think a lot of organizations might frame that as a problem, but you see it differently. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so Chief is the largest platform for senior women leaders. So I speak very often through the lens of a senior woman leader. I will be happy to speak about all human leaders, but drawing from what we know, there is a specific power in women's leadership around understanding the power of intergenerational excellence and communication and connection. I mean, that is, so rooted in societal relationships of women who primarily handle in childbearing years, in jobs, in businesses, also thinking family and then thinking parents and the sandwich generation. So that's the premise and the thinking of the lens that I'm talking about. When I look to the intergenerational workforce, I have so many women leaders in Chief who are sitting at the, Gen X mindset, and then looking at the millennials, the Zs, the alphas. There's some boomers in there older than me. And I think that is a really interesting opportunity to understand the power and gravitas of seniority in an age cohort, the amazing sort of opportunity for particularly women in the millennial age, which is often childbearing ages, and kind of balancing all those plates together. And then the young folks who are brimming with ideas, thoughts, new kind of ways to think, and be able to hold those under the same tent to drive not only change and growth for the business, but change and evolution for the culture of the company.
But I would imagine that this intergenerational sort of new workforce changes the relationship between experience and expertise, right? We're at a place with AI in particular where someone early in their career can understand technology or even the consumer better than someone that has those years of experience.
Yeah.
So how does that change anything about authority?
Yeah. I think work and organizations are structured to where there's sometimes rigidity to the org chart, the hierarchy. People have done it always. I can catch myself every once in a while, like, well, in 2006 we did it this way, right? And that's not effective nor helpful. But when I look at what's happening today, and you have young people coming in with this already AI native expertise, and you have perhaps older, more seasoned, more tenured people coming in with like leadership, strategy, roadmap, have done it before, perhaps less native to AI. The key thing now is that hierarchy is sort of collapsing. and not collapsing to where there's no there's no seasoned input, nor is there, no junior sort of advancement. They have to talk differently together. And the best organizations are going to be the ones that acknowledge that and refactor and reform with that in mind. So in some ways, there's a flattening of the organization. And I think actually May Habib at Writer, she's the CEO of Writer Brilliant. I had an interview with her. She said it best, like the top C-level people who are driving change and seniority are going to be dot connectors of everything that's happening. So you can speak to you can learn and grow and direct an agent, a young person that's, zippy and AI native and has new kinds of ideas, to the person that's just a really incredible project manager or a program manager or a strategist that might be more seasoned.
I want to drill down into the AI a little bit more, because Chief's done some research and it found that 80% of senior women leaders are actively shaping AI strategy.
Yeah.
We're not sitting on the sidelines. Yeah. So how are women doing this differently?
Yeah, we did some research because we were seeing in Chief a real rush into AI, learning, curiosity, unpacking it, wanting more and more to kind of be a part of those interactive sessions. And so we did research with the Harris Poll just to verify a little bit of what we were seeing was true, and actually more broad than just Chief. So there was a big counter narrative coming out around, like, women are trepidatious about AI. They don't want to raise their hand and look stupid. They are slow. They're going to observe before leaning in. And we were like, we're not seeing that so, at all. So in our research, 80% of the women that we were part of our research study, they said, I have an active role in some element of the AI at my company: governance, project management, strategy, org structure, right? And in taking that more direct seat, they are seeing a few things that is perhaps causing the desire to kind of move with more consideration. Mm-hmm. So 68% of those women said they are concerned with how rapid fire their organizations are moving, and they're moving at such a cost that's benefiting speed and not thoughtful integration into the company. And the consequence, the largest consequence that they saw, was the loss of critical thinking for young people. And not only just young people, but as they're starting to adopt in their senior ranks, it's everybody, right? And so in that, I think, and I love this spirit, okay, my company's moving fast, not thinking about deliberate and intentional, perhaps, integration. I, in my sphere that I control, am going to be thinking about the human impact, protecting critical thinking, protecting integrity, intelligence, all the things that are uniquely human, and go through the hard work of figuring out how AI and what we call HI sit side by side, human intelligence and artificial intelligence, and how do we do this in a thoughtful manner. That might take a little bit more time, but the outcomes to be driven later, we think, will be much more beneficial. And it's not just we, this is the women that we have in Chief kind of validate that.
I feel like you just gave me an answer to this, but because about the AI and the creativity and sort of all of this happening, converging at Cannes as well. Is there anything specific that you think women leaders should be taking away from Cannes this year?
Gear up. It would be wrong for me to come and sit with you and say there's not an access problem for women and AI. Historically speaking, all marginalized communities have access issues in terms of getting access to whatever the new thing is, right? And so if I take that and place that in the business context, you look at a population of business leaders who are women, you think about the teams underneath those business leaders who are women. And so for all women and women leaders, when I say you come here, soak it up. And when I, pull yourself to the seat, experiment, do things in your home with AI, do things in your business with AI, like be fearless and curious about what those new technologies are, but also be fearless and curious about how your expertise matches with what you're learning for implementation and kind of, creating change and growth in your own organization. And then finally, with that curiosity and sort of agile thinking, I think it's really important that women now, and the future of work is coming, and the work environments are going to be atomized in ways that we can't even describe. And what I think that will lead to is this real moment where you are the sort of, it's Alison Inc. And I'm the compendium of all of my experiences, not just the CEO of Chief. I bring everything to that expertise, and then I can utilize that in the future for not only my business's growth, but my own personal, growth. And I love that lens and mindset for women leaders.
You can actually bring your whole self
Yes.
to your role.
And not just, from whence you came. And because that's how it's going, I think when the flattening of organizations, the sort of distribution of work, atomizing differently, and people clipping into work, utilizing AI differently, I don't have a crystal ball, but you can see the changes coming. And so the mindset needs to change. And agile, constant learner, skill, upskill, reskill, repeat, that's the mindset I think women leaders need to adopt to just make sure that they're getting access and competitive, a competitive seat at the table for what's next, and I think they'll thrive.
So this sounds exciting and optimistic already, but my last question for you is, what gives you genuine optimism about where leadership is heading now?
It's what I see in Chief. So many of the women leaders in Chief, they are in C-suite roles or senior leadership roles, and many of them, the air is quite thin at top leadership roles, and many women in the pursuit of ambition, more ambitious, moves, jump out of corporate environments and sometimes start something on their own, founder, builder, entrepreneur. Some women take that path to just put themselves in transition to figure out what's next and walk away from things that don't feel right. And in that is not, and when I see women in all these different varying degrees of kind of leadership journeys, there's an energy and an optimism around I can, and I will. And, and that, whether that is like carve a new path in my corporate, I've been in this job for 10 years and I'm going to be here for another 10 years, but things have so rapidly changed. I'm taking those qualities of agile learner, curiosity, upskill, reskill, and I'm applying it to my corporate path here, and there's an optimism there that feels fresh and interesting. Creating a space for myself as a founder, entrepreneur, or builder. I am in Chief talking and learning from others who are doing that same, and there's a wild alchemy that goes on with that, and particularly in an AI environment where it's you and another partner and your AI agent, and you have launched a company and you're about to sell it. There's something very optimistic around that, particularly for women that are 35, 40 plus. It's another chapter and that's exciting. And even in, women who find themselves trying to figure out what's next, thinking about and learning and just retooling from women across multiple different segments, and different places, it just, it opens doors differently than just staying within your own kind of network. Broadening your network on the regular basis opens up new avenues, and I think there's an optimism around that too.
Well, dang, I'm optimistic too. Thank you so much, Alison.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.